Hi, I'm Drew Hutchison, and you're tuned to Local Bias. My guest today is noted author, poet, raconteur, entertainer, performer, a lot of different names, juggler for certain.
Number of years. How are you?
That's how I met you. You were doing juggling, and I was a printer at H Copy and Hollowell's Printing.
Yes.
And we printed your brochures back in the day.
That's right. Back in the day when you used to hand out things and mail things to see if anybody wanted to hire you.
Before the interweb.
That's right. Now you throw it out there and who knows where it goes.
Where does it go?
It does.
Where does it go?
I don't know. Where is our community? Who watches what's happening? And now with everybody being hacked, it's unbelievable. But that's another subject.
That is another. We have so many we could talk about. Because before the cameras roll,
yes,
we were having a scintillate. I'm not even going to be able to say it. We just need to move on. Paul Richmond, author. Talk to me.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yes, so I am still, amazingly, after all these years, I'm still creating word events. And I say word events because if I mention poetry, people hate poetry.
Yeah.
And so, but if I say word events, now it's, when I listen and when people have come to events, they go, was that a poem? I don't know, did you like it?
And if they like it, it's not a poem.
It's okay. And also it opens up for prose and stories, and people realize how important words are. Mm-hmm. And then people realize how important it is that people are actually really talking about their lives.
Right.
And you're hearing real stories and maybe real failures or real successes or real things that you realize you experienced, and maybe you got down on yourself because you thought you're the only one who screwed up that marriage or your kids or something else about your dreams of what you hope to actually be. And you're listening to other people running the same kind of thing, and it kind of gives a different light to it. One event that I have coming up this weekend, I'll be celebrating the 11th year of having a word stage at the Garlic and Arts Festival. This happens much more in Europe for some reason, in Orange, the 28th and 29th. The word stage is way towards the back of the festival. The festival is very cheap to come in and do it. It has more than 100 vendors. It is an example of some folks who had a dream in these times of when you wonder, can anything happen? 25 years ago, people decided, or they might even be a little longer, Deb and Ricky and a bunch of three other farms. I think through the first Garlic Festival, they almost had 1,000 people. And now, since then, a local farm near them has agreed to hold the festivals. And most of those vendors are local, within 50 miles to some degree. And they make enough money sometimes from that festival to support them for half of their year of stuff where there was no way for them to be selling their farm products or their arts. And in a town that many you were joking about me being coming from Buffalo, but Orange was a mill town that once the mills left, there wasn't much for people to survive on. And so the idea of farming and arts, this festival has helped vitalize the area, and it raises money and it donates money to like the food co-op that's there, trying to get that happening, and many other women's shelter things, and many things. You should check out their website of every year with a very low admission price. They raise enough money to support other ventures, and it's all volunteer. I'm one of the coordinators, and I do the word stage. But I convinced people after 1 year of us, they said, oh, why don't you go out in the woods and let people read out there, I guess, and I was out there under a tarp, mm-hmm. and the word got back that people really enjoyed it, and so they ended up giving me access to one stage, and then after that we built a stage, and so I've been there ever since with my own stage, besides the family stage and besides the big stage where they have the music. And but if you see other festivals in Europe, they have word stages and yoga stages and theater stages, and they have a much more diverse aspect of realizing people are not only just going for music, there's other aspects to that. Along with that, I'm next weekend after that, one night at the Shea, 15 years of trying to do a word festival in which you talked about community, and I was trying to bring all the writers together. I was traveling, other places to go to these big festivals, and when I came back here, I thought, well, we have, cafes and we have things and we have bar. Why are we? And all these writers are here. Why is no one bringing us together? And so I just started it. And the first year I had 30 writers, and then it jumped to 70 writers, and then that was 2 days, and then my festival was 3 days, and at one point I went to 6 days. I think it even came when I had also the 5-minute stories. I sort of kept expanding it to have more and more stuff.
But then COVID hit, right?
Then COVID hit, took me out. And the Shea and Turner's asked me to come there, and so I've had a couple of years there. And I don't know if I can continue, really, so I wanted to do one day in which there'll be readings from, there's an open bookstore, so all the publishers and local writers, free tables. If you have a book, you can come. There'll be a bookstore that's open from the whole day, but so anybody can have their books there, and we're not taking any fees for it. If you sell a lot and you want to donate to the festival, fantastic. But readings will happen from 12:30 to 5. There'll be a break, and then at night, Do It Now is going to play, and maybe we might invite some other friends, because I used to try to do a bigger night show.
Right.
But, as my population and other people are aging out, we say we're going to do a show at 8 o'clock, and everybody goes, 8 o'clock, drink coffee, you're not dead yet. Sorry. But that Do It Now will start at 7:30, if that helps. If that helps.
I'm one of those older people. Those late shows kill me.
One thing I want to say, people may wonder and ask me, why do I do this? I feel that if you don't have a strong sense of your own beliefs, and you don't feel safe in stating what you feel, and we don't have very many safe places that people don't feel they could come and say something without feeling like they're now going to get into an argument, or that someone will really listen to you. Mm-hmm. And you may know or you may not know, I instituted a long time ago sand timers. So I didn't want to battle with anybody about your 5 minutes is up.
Right.
And so for 15 years now, I guess everyone's trained. I have 2 sand timers, and when people come in and you get up to the mic, you flip over the timer. Black sand is 5 minutes. When the black sand's gone, you're gone. And you try to not hold the timer and be talking, and try to figure out all kinds of ways to get in a little more time before you put it down, and all that good stuff. People kind of figure out. But what I realize is people become addicted to that people are listening to you.
Right.
So it's a really hard thing to suddenly step away from the fact that, wow, people are really listening to me.
But that 5 minutes can be an eternity if you have somebody that doesn't know how to read.
Totally.
They have a great story, but if they don't actually perform it as well.
What also helped relax everybody, because, here comes Jimmy, and we hate Jimmy. But we know Jimmy's going to leave.
That's right, it's only 5 minutes.
And when you relax in 5 minutes, you realize Jimmy or Susie or whoever it is actually had a couple really good lines in there, or said something that you go, oh, okay, yep, that is, that's something I can relate to.
Have you had your mind blown by somebody reading that?
So many times. And I feel very honored that people do feel it's such a safe place, because suddenly I'll find out later this is the first time they've talked about abuse at home, or this is the first time that they've discussed how sad they were about a child's death, or whatever it might be, and that they have had no other place to really open up to talk about it. And sometimes it's very strange. On a particular night, 3 people are talking about that. Nobody talked to anybody else about that, yet there it was. It somehow seemed to be in the air, and 3 people told different variations about it, and why they couldn't get out, or why they did, or what happened, or here they are now, they're survived. So it really, some people think, we're just having poetry, we're hearing stories. Well, no, we're also helping each of us grapple with what is our life here, and who are we, and what mistakes, can I accept the mistakes I made, and how do I move on from those mistakes and still love myself and meet somebody else who's got a lot of baggage, and can we make a new life now with
It's basically therapeutic.
It seems to be. I don't think people. So an example is when I used to do residencies at schools. I didn't really think that many of the schools understood what arts would do. And I had a school one time that they were kids who had been arrested. The girls had been pregnant in high school, and there was like a safety net high school that they were just trying to get them to get their diploma. Mm-hmm. And they could smoke, and they could do all kinds of things, And I think the first class I had, where they effed me up and down and did all kinds of stuff. And later at the teachers' thing, they said, well, you're hired. And I was like, I'm hired. And they said, well, these kids have the opportunity to leave. They didn't leave.
So you were a success.
I was a success, even though. But what happened was I brought in some spray cans, and I got the principal to agree that I could repaint this wall in the school, but that I could use it and I asked them to spray paint on the wall, the things that they wanted to spray paint. And they at first thought, oh, you're trying to catch us, because many of them were putting tags all over town. And I said, no, you don't have to put your tags up. I'm not talking about your tags. I'm talking about art and what you would create. And so when they'd pick up red, I'd say, why are you spraying with red? And they said, well, because I like red. So it's like, well, that's what artists do. They pick, because they were all saying they weren't artists.
Right.
And so I was trying to get them to understand. But what started to happen is they were writing words, fear, this, that. Oh, now it comes out this girl thinks her father or stepfather is going to maybe rape her, and she sleeps with a knife, and nobody knew this. Because of the art took her to a place of spraying it, acknowledging it, saying it. So then the school was like, wow, you should do therapy. I was like, well, you're not paying me for therapy, and no one will accept this is happening, you know. One other real quick one was I brought in collages, and people were like, oh, you can't let the kids just pick anything out of these magazines. And I said, well, the school picked the magazines, right? So, because I learned that, because people don't realize how much soft porn and everything else is in the okay magazines.
Depends upon your imagination, Paul.
Exactly. So I handed out these magazines. Well, this one, and all I did was bring a square and said, you have to fill this. Okay, this is the thing. And you're going over. And I was helping people cut out. One of the teachers was really upset because one of these kids was just all alcohol. And I'm telling him you can cut out the bottles better and lay them on top. So you got this square of alcohol. You get them up all on the walls. We're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden, these are 12 and 13. They're not supposed to be getting all this alcohol. They're talking about being drunk and talking. And I loosened everybody up. So all of a sudden, all this stuff is coming out. Got quiet for a moment, and all of a sudden, this kid looks and says, well, I think I might need help. I said, well, why do you think that? And he said, well, because look at everybody has other things up here. Mine is just alcohol. That's all I think about.
That might have been the thing that actually shifted his focus so that he could get the help.
And that's why one of the principals says this is why I brought him in, because they were all down on me thinking that the arts, what are we doing?
Right.
And so I don't know, so same with words, just to not get too far into all these different things, is I think nobody realizes if you just gave a prompt of any word, what that will trigger for somebody to write about. Say a history or something, and so they talk about their own history, their sense of history, what goes on, it's very, So I keep trying to support that. I see that as some of my political work. I've gotten frustrated. I was on the Common for 15, 20 years every week. Which were we talking about now? Right. and which thing are we doing? And and I have personally been arrested for trying to stop the nuclear power at the Seabrook, and I did fight against the Vietnam War, and I didn't go, and various things. And so, but I did co-ops because at that point I also felt like it was trying to build all around democracy, people learning to communicate, learning to work with each other. Yep, unfortunately we have a lot of assholes or jerks, but what do you do now? You put three people together bag raisins in the past, and suddenly they're beating each other with the shovels, Mm-hmm. And so you go, well, okay, what happened?
Well, actually what happened is that we have two different kinds of things going on with humans. We have the competitive spirit and we have the cooperative spirit. And they both exist in nature. And the better outcomes are generally cooperative, but that doesn't mean they can't be affected by the competitive. And it's like we're our own worst enemies, it seems.
Well, also people get upset when you had all the new games of, okay, we're going to give all the kids trophies.
Well, that was absurd. I'm sorry.
No, exactly. I agree. But everything goes to, you start something and then all of a sudden, wow, how did it go over there? That wasn't the original aspect.
Right.
We actually do want to deal with failure, and we do want you to try your best.
Right.
But you don't have to.
And the kid that's given a trophy for doing nothing, they know that they did nothing and all that.
Right. And at the same time, you want to have the person who's superior not go, well, now you're superior in everything. Right. And you're a good hockey player, but you may not know how to cook or do anything else, and somebody else has some other talents.
So being able to recognize these kids for their particular talents, instead of it being within, the sporting or this or whatever other categories that we create. We just need to be more, we need to widen our appreciation of how we all have unique talents.
Yes.
We should all be celebrated.
That's
but
right.
That doesn't mean we get to receive a trophy for showing up or not even showing up. That's absurd.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting in terms of my work of trying to figure out how to, I have one other question in terms of reading these days. and I was talking to someone who I was watching their post, and you know, when you see that the post on Facebook is like 3 lines and then it says more, and I clicked more, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, so am I going to sit and read all of that? Do I have time to read all of that now? The times I do read it, I'm really glad I read it, but then I realized, wow, so has my own attention span or the whole world of I'm rolling, and this is happening. So how, and, you know, then I hear, no, we're having 6-word stories. 6-word stories, okay. Oh no, we're only having 50-word stories. So when you think about it as a writer, you go, well, okay, so do you actually want to know about the characters? Do you want to know the story? You want to get right to what's happening? Back to my old days of juggling, I saw this early on when the European school came, and they had built all these characters, and maybe because of the halls where they had the cabarets and stuff, it built. You would see 2 guys come out, and they were interacting before they got to juggling the clubs.
Okay, right.
So there was a whole story of who this guy is and who that guy is, and why they're going to have the dynamic around the clubs.
Right.
When they tried to do that show in America, they were almost getting booed because everybody was like, you know, get to the car crash, get to the explosions, let's have this thing rolling, you know. And it's like, well, wait a minute, if once you're there and you see the person doing 7 clubs, it happens for about 30 seconds or 50 seconds. And after a while, if they can hold it longer, you actually realize it's kind of boring, which is really sad because you go, this is really unbelievable. But I'm now tired of it. Well, no, it's just that it's happening and you lose perspective that this is really hard to do. You know, and most professional people do drops and do all kinds of things to build the audience of, can they do it? And then, yay, they did it. And it's like, okay, I guess you needed that because you can't, you don't want to somehow just accept that this is hard and that they just did it, you know.
So we had a juggling club at Greenfield High School when I went there. And part of that was because Penn Jillette went to Greenfield High School.
Oh, yeah. Go to a Penn Jillette. Yes.
Still is, I imagine.
Well, he's the, you know, he majored, they have their major show, Magic. They, you know, they're in Vegas and everything else. So, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting in terms of culture. And, well, I guess I want to bring up this part of why my events are also about community. I mean, I think that the Garlic Fest and my festival in the fall has always been about trying to bring people together. And those people coming and hearing each other, and they group together, and then those people group together because of what they heard the other person read, and various stuff, you know, and so then they make friends where they wouldn't have maybe thought of making friends.
Well, because writing is such a solo effort. I mean, ultimately, when you're writing, you need to be alone, right?
Yes, and it's a different art. And some people realize that, you know, we were just talking about a friend of yours. I mean, going up to a mic is another skill.
Right.
And I had that from doing my juggling of thousands of shows. So, you know, everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong when I was doing it. So you approach the stage in a different way. If you're coming out of your room and writing and the mic is here and you don't know how to touch the mic and you don't touch it and now nobody hears you and then you have an awful experience, you go, well, nobody cares. It's like, well, because nobody heard you. Or you're so nervous you get up to the mic, well, I don't know if you want to hear this piece, but here it is. Like, well, no, by then nobody wants to hear the piece.
But I'm sure, though, you also see people that come back and they've made those early errors.
Oh, they've grown.
Right.
And that's the other part that you realize we kind of don't have a culture that people are thinking that this is going to take more than a few tries.
Right.
Even when I was doing my juggling, I would videotape some kids, and all of a sudden, you know, I would show them, this is what the first day, and now you're doing 10 throws. So you're actually on, because they would say, oh, I can't juggle. So then I put it on the table. I said, well, what are you doing there? Well, I drop still. Yes, gravity is going to win all the time, and you're going to drop at some point.
Right.
So, but you now are doing 10 throws over no throws. So, oh, you had a blank, you had some brushes. Wow, that doesn't even look like a dog. Well, okay, well, that was your first time. Why did you expect it to look like a dog? We can call it an abstract painting if you want, but you know, how many tries are you willing to do? And I also feel that something's been lost is, I did a workshop, one of the arts groups asked me to do a workshop for people who wanted to do other festivals. And when I got there, I saw everybody was ready and they had the pens and I was kind of like, how many of you have passion for this, that you want to be doing this? And all they want to know is which professionals I had used.
Oh
Who did I hire for my website? Who did I hire to do the marketing? Who did I hire? And I kept saying, me, I did it. Wow, you knew how to do all that? No, I did not know how to do that. Wow, so you made a whole bunch of mistakes. Oh, man, I made a lot of mistakes. Oh, well, I don't want to make any mistakes. Well, then you're not going to probably do a festival. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. And maybe if I knew all the things I know after 15 years of doing it, if I was to say I want to do a festival, I might go, no way.
Right.
But you know,
but
not really. I would still do it. But you know, I feel I was lucky growing up at the time period that I've grown up, because think of words. When I grew up, people used to walk around and say, "What's happening?" Mm-hmm. They didn't say whatever, because whatever is also a real resigned.
Right.
You don't think it's going to happen. It's all good, maybe. Well, it's not all good. And so there's a kind of an attitude that gets carried through our cultural words, mm-hmm. that then you realize people they're so worried about making a mistake. Well, what if no one shows? Well, maybe you picked the wrong day, and so you try next time, or right. maybe you didn't advertise enough. But those next step thinkings, I'm not sure why that was lost through a couple of generations now. So I don't blame them. I'm not putting people down. I really see in terms of our educational thing of taking away the arts, mm-hmm. of people not having an opportunity to go play with something. Wow, that didn't really well. You got to try it again. Right. And if you're only going towards testing and you're only thinking that you just have to look up information, then you are always thinking, I better get the right information before I do anything. Well, what do you think? What do you feel? Does this seem right for you? Well, I don't know. Well, try something. Well, is that hot? Well, it's hot. Okay, so do you want to touch it again? Well, maybe not. But there's a fear in that somehow you're going to ruin your life really badly if you make that mistake, right. or that you don't trust what you've learned.
Some of my students would hardly do any work because they were afraid of making a mistake on whatever project. So by doing nothing, at least they didn't make any mistakes. It's like,
right.
How did that happen?
That's right. Well, it kind of goes along with, I don't want to get into conspiracies, but I think if you dismantle the educational system,
which seems to have happened,
and you dismantle the idea of taking that arts are worthless and you don't do it and you just have the big stars, mm-hmm. then you're not having any of those experiences. I mean, why? I just watched, I don't know if you went to see it yet, the movie Far Out about the communes that's up at in Brattleboro. They are going to have it here in Greenfield for one night. It's about the communes in Montague and Packers Corners. Okay. And it's really, in watching it, brought back to me, wow, what a time period that we just thought, we're going to try to do this. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I've never farmed. We're going to join a commune and get land, and well, we're going to starve out here.
A lot of rice and beans.
Yeah, or not, because we can't grow them.
Right, right.
But I mean, it just showed that time period, we had come out of the 50s, I guess, with our parents. Everybody's saying you can do things and make things happen.
Right.
And we believed it.
Right.
And we went and did it. Somehow, by the time the 70s and the punks and things came out, everybody got disillusioned, or they thought things didn't happen, or it didn't work. They got really convinced instead of realizing, oh, wait a minute, we had co-ed schools, we had black studies, Native American studies, women's studies that weren't in the schools before. Women did not have to wear dresses all the time. Maybe you think that's a bad thing, but people were trying to be perceived as equal. Mm-hmm. We were looking for pay. A whole bunch of successes. Right. We actually stopped wars for a period of time after Vietnam. Okay, then we had the biggest demonstration around the whole world against the Iraq War, and it didn't stop.
It didn't stop.
And so that was like another blow. It seemed like we don't care what you think.
Especially when it was shown that there weren't weapons of mass destruction there. Donald Rumsfeld was talking out of his...
Yeah. Also, I think the younger people are at a... I mean, my stepson is there, watching Bernie get thrown under the bus.
Right. And that did happen. I'm sorry what the DNC people say. That did happen.
That's right. Well, and also seeing Occupy Wall Street. I mean, there you had a whole new attempt to not destroy property, to hold educational things, to try to figure out how to have those talks, set up libraries. And what happened? They were forcefully coordinated throughout the whole country with heavy police force, moved.
Right.
So I think that everyone suddenly, it hit us.
Well, the reforms that they were calling for did not happen Geithner was appointed, and it was business as usual.
Yeah, well, also they were put down because they wanted to address a lot of things, and the media kept saying, "Are you for green pants or blue pants, or do you want this or that?" And nothing. And they were trying to say, "Well, we're trying to talk. Oh, so you're not for anything?" No, we are for a whole bunch of things. The environment is connected to what you build, and so all of that. And I think they sort of saw what we saw. I felt after Kent State. They're going to shoot us. So I mean, we grew up with a lot of assassinations.
Right. Oh yeah.
So
One right after the other.
Our major folks that were speaking what we thought was, wow, we're hoping we're going there. And I think now this generation, after watching what happened to Black Lives Matter, what happened to Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, and the force that the police have come out with, realize that, do we have to go to arms, or what do we do? What's happening here? How do we make change happen?
Well, I think for one thing, you make change not by opposing things, but by creating a new way.
Yes, and you try to keep trying to create that new way and watch it. And you and I have been involved in it over the years, and we saw successes, and then they failed, or they stopped.
Nothing stays the same anyway.
That's right. And
you don't give up the fight because you win temporarily.
Oh, and also, flowers only bloom once,
right?
And then you honor the blooming. Somehow we've gotten into the thing that what I build should keep going. Right. I mean, this is almost like with my festivals.
Right.
In some ways, when COVID happened, it was a year when I was thinking like, oh wow, I don't have to have an excuse to not do the festival. Gee, folks, I can't do the festival. It's like, well, I can actually sit back this year.
Though you actually did do it now, you went to going online in order to...
Yes, you went to go online to do it. And so, that's a major, I think that's opened up something that why are they trying to get rid of TikTok? Because the young people actually watch the real videos of what's going on in Gaza and other places that our media wasn't doing. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, well, it's owned by China. Okay, but what are we watching, though, still? You can still... but also, just the idea that I can be sitting in my house in Wendell and I'm reading with someone from Africa, and I'm reading with someone from California, and another person from Brazil. And when I first saw that happen, I thought, well, this is never going away, because everyone is just, wow, this can happen. I mean, everybody complained about it in the beginning. Right. Oh, Zoom this. But I saw right away the potential of, wow, I'm going to now meet, and I did. Nigeria asked me to read in their poetry festival, and a bunch of different things happened. And I thought, this is really great, because it's now I can actually talk to you to go, what is actually going on in Nigeria, or at least from your perspective in Nigeria. What's going on in this country and that country, and what do you see happening? And finding kindred spirits of, they're cutting down all our trees. Why do you think there's flooding in Czechoslovakia? They took down all the trees where they used to be, and now there's flooding because of the erosion. Okay, so how many times do we have to talk about not cutting down trees?
Apparently, we have to keep talking about it.
Exactly. So I see the art, just in terms of doing all this, going all over, but I see the arts as a major influencer in all this, and I hope that it's a way of helping bring this about in such a way, whether it's plays or stories or something, where people don't feel that they're just being talked to and given another lecture by somebody else that they think they have to follow.
Well, and sometimes it may seem that way.
Yes.
But then there are the times that you inspire someone. If you inspire one person and it helps them grow or to experience life in a more magical, joyful way,
right,
then it's all worthwhile.
That's right.
And this has been worthwhile having you on the show, but we've run out of time again.
Oh my God! Time is an illusion, though. Don't you know that?
Well, in this case, the illusion is coming to an end. I'm Drew Hutchison with my friend Paul Richmond. Always a pleasure, Paul. Thank you for joining us. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
It does fly by.